The Senate will please come to order. This morning we'll begin with a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements as we begin the day? We will move to referrals under Rule 31, page 175, an act relating to the beverage container redemption system being on the calendar for notice and affecting the expenditures of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. We have referrals under Rule 44A, H 572, an act relating to retirement allowance. I need to confirm. Sorry. I've had H 743. Okay. My apologies. We have another referral under Rule 31, H 572, an act relating to the retirement allowance for interim educators being on the calendar for notice and affecting the expenditures of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Now moving to Rule 44A referrals. Thank you. H 743, an act relating to amending the charter of the town of Hardwick, pursuant to Rule 44A, is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. I do believe this now brings us to the orders of the day. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. As you can see, we have some committees that are furiously trying to get some work out the door. If we could take up H 606 for third reading. I
believe there's been a request to pass over H 606.
Oh, right there.
727.
And then I would just move on to H 465.
We will now move to H 465. We have on the calendar for action H 465, an act relating to boards and commissions. It was read for the first time on May 23rd. It was referred to the Committee on Government Operations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 4396 to 4399 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. It was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports that the recommendation of amendment of the Committee on Government Operations amended as set forth on pages 4399 0000 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 465.
H 465. Act relating to boards and commissions.
The senator from Rutland, Senator Collmore, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam President. Senators can follow along on page 4396 of today's calendar. And you'll see there are two amendments from the Senate Government Operations Committee. I would ask to speak to both the underlying bill and those amendments if I could.
You may.
Thank you. So the bill was generated from the work done by the Sunset Advisory Commission. Just to remind senators, this board was established in Title III to recommend the elimination of any board or commission that it deems no longer necessary, or the revision of any of the powers and duties of a board or commission, and to also recommend whether members of the boards and commissions should be entitled to receive per diem compensation. So the commission met several times last fall and early winter, and the results of that work are contained in H465. Section 1 of the bill eliminates the Vermont Education Health Benefits Commission. The commission took testimony. This was established back in 2017 to see if there should be a single statewide health benefit plan. It created a report in November of 2017 and is no longer needed at this time. So we would recommend a repeal of that commission. Section 2 repeals the Study Committee on Sales and Use Tax. The legislative council that we had walked through the enabling language of this, and we were not able to find any evidence that this committee has met since 2012. Section 3 would repeal the committee to examine strategies to enhance the software and information technology in Vermont. Likewise, legislative council walked through the enabling language. We were not able to find any evidence that this committee has met since 2012. In section 4, we recommend repeal of the Youth in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Food Production. We don't believe anyone has ever met for this committee. We have no information on it, and to the knowledge of the commission, it's never met. So we recommend repeal there. Section 5 would repeal the Department of Labor and Advisory Council. This, as best as we could determine, last met during the Douglas administration, and we would recommend repeal of that. Section 6 repeals the Working Group on State Workforce Development. The overview of establishment of the working group, they did meet before the report was due. They did submit a report and has not met since, and we would recommend a repeal of that working group. And finally, Section 7 would repeal the Council Advisory Committee. This was created back in 2017 and has been replaced by the Professional Regulation Subcommittee that advises the Criminal Justice Training Council. We would recommend repeal of that. In section 7A is the first amendment to this bill. We would propose to amend by adding a member of the Professional Ski Patrol Association to the Emergency Service Provider Wellness Commission. And section 8 would amend Title 32 to change the per diem compensation amount for boards and commissions from $50 to a minimum of $50, and then adds a process for the governor to request per diem compensation for boards and commissions be set at a certain dollar amount to be approved by the General Assembly as part of the budget process. Our second instance of amendment would add to the process outlined in section 8 by requiring the governor, prior to submitting the proposed per diem rates to the General Assembly, to consult with other elective officers on the proposed per diem amount for their officers' per diems, which are not funded by the general fund. There will be a subsequent amendment from the Appropriations Committee on this. Section 9 is the effective date of the bill, which will be July 1st, 2023. The committee heard from our legislative counsel, from the sponsor of the bill from the other body, and from the director of the Office of Professional Regulation from the Secretary of State's office. The committee vote was 5-0-0, and we would ask for the Senate to concur. Thank you.
The senator from Caledonia, Senator Kitchell, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. The Senate Appropriations Committee does have an amendment. As we were considering the per diems, and we recognize that we do have a range of per diems now, and the fact that the $50 has not been increased for a long time, we were concerned that somehow there would be disparity, and different departments would be more generous or less generous in terms of the per diems. And we've heard a lot, well, this board or this commission is different, and the per diem should be higher. So we did not want to have a system where the department would move ahead and institute a higher per diem, and then we would be in a reactionary position of responding and saying, well, we think that that amount is out of kilter relative to other departments. So we wanted to make it clear that higher per diems the floor at 50, but higher per diems would go through a review and approval process as part of the budget. But then we also, in the second instance of amendment, we recognize that once this gets started, there may be very legitimate reasons that a per diem needs to be made higher when we're not in session. And so wanted to make sure that there was a flexibility and a review process that would deal with those situations. And that's what the second instance of amendment is designed to do. And then the third instance is in fiscal year 2024, setting forth the process for the documentation and review as part of the annual budget submission. And then there was some discussion about should we set a maximum, and at this point neither committee felt that was advisable because somehow the maximum becomes the minimum, and there may still be a need for variation because some of the boards or commissions really demand hours and hours of time, and others are much more time limited in terms of what the commitment is. So the report in terms of should there be a cap, if we should experience what we think are perhaps excessive being proposed or put in place. So that is the amendment from the Appropriations Committee, and the committee vote was 601. Thank you.
The first question is, shall the report of the Committee on Government Operations be amended as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the report as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations. The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations as amended? Ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've proposed to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations as amended. The final question is, shall the bill be read for the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 465. I will now move to H 489, an act relating to miscellaneous provisions affecting health insurance regulation. It was read for the first time on February 8th. It was referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 4400 to 4401 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 489.
H 489, an act relating to miscellaneous provisions affecting health insurance regulation.
The Senator from Washington, Senator Cummings, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. And may I speak to the amendment and the bill?
You may.
Thank you. That's going to make this a lot more exciting because this was a plain vanilla housekeeping insurance bill until we got to the amendment. And the amendment was just very difficult for the committee to really get a decision. I said I should have a degree in dentistry because it was like teeth. So I am going to get through. I even tried the thumbs up, thumbs down, didn't work. First part of this bill, which is basic housekeeping. Section 1 says that Vermont law will comply with the federal No Surprises Act, No Surprise Billing Act. And 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, I was at a national conference of insurance legislators, and this was the big deal. People were going in for surgery, and 3 months later, they'd get a $30,000 bill from the anesthesiologist who wasn't in network. Emergency room doctors, things that you really didn't have any control over, and it was in and out of network. And I came back and I don't even remember who I spoke to, probably my ledge counsel, and said, how come I haven't heard about this in Vermont? And they said, oh, well, we don't allow it. So I never got any more details. I've never had, a series of complaints. This basically says we're going to comply, which we already do, and DFR will tell the insurance carriers they have to comply. Section 3 talks about associations. This was another dentistry job. As you may remember, there was one very large association in Vermont, the Chamber of Commerce, and many small businesses joined the chamber in order to take part in their insurance program. Because you had so many small businesses, that insurance program then put them into the large insurance marketplace. And if you get into the large group, you get a much more favorable rate. Vermont, since the early 2000s, has combined our individual and small group market in order to get a large enough group so that you have a viable insurance group. Key in insurance is you need to spread the risk, and the bigger the pool, you're spreading that risk over, rates you get for everyone. But in general, the small group, meaning small employers, have paid more, and the individual group has paid less than they would if they were separated. The Affordable Care Act said no more associations. And all of those small employers have to go to the exchange because we need the people in the exchange. And that's where it's at until the Trump administration came in and said, yeah, you can do associations and you can be in Vermont and you can form an association with somebody else in California. And they made a whole lot of other changes. We reacted very quickly and put some fences back up around our insurance pool just to protect the pool and our ratepayers. During that discussion, the chamber and I believe one other had started to reform an association because that was being allowed. And we were hearing from small businesses that they were getting great deals and they could now afford insurance, or they could afford better insurance. And that was my last experience with dentistry, because we were left with the decision of, do you say, no, you can't do associations in Vermont and charge all these small businesses more, or do you say, yes, you can, and then that had a major impact on the individual market, which tends to be the poorer and have the higher cost. Fortunately, in a moment of schizophrenia, the federal government overnight announced that they weren't allowing associations, and your committee in finance was let off the hook, having to make that difficult discussion. So now the dust has settled, and what the Section 3 in this bill deals with is, it is okay to form an insurance association under some very limited circumstances. And this spells out what those are. You have to have 100 people, you have to be in business for a year. But basically, you have to be organized for something other than the purchase of insurance. You can be the Undertakers Association, you could be the car dealers. You have a common interest. You have to have a constitution and bylaws. Your membership has to constitute the body of the bulk, the majority of your voting body. And it cannot be directly connected with an insurer. So Blue Cross can form the car dealers for Blue Cross insurance group. And that it gives ways to determine if an insurer really is in charge, like you have share in office. So this will set the rules and will allow some smaller groups if they're big enough to buy insurance for individual members. It has to be offered to everyone, and anyone that doesn't want it has to. The next few sections, 4 or 5, they do some, that's billing as a reason for an external review of their medical charges. It does some rules and the usual report back. Section 8 establishes a study group of healthcare parity for youth in residential care. Apparently, when youth goes into residential care, what is covered under health insurance varies, and this study committee is charged with looking at that and bringing recommendations back. And then there's Section 9, the amendment. You may, as I said earlier, Vermont has merged small group and its individual market since 2000, or early 2000. Last year, the insurance companies and the healthcare advocate, has been the main advocate for keeping those markets merged. Insurance companies, not so much. Healthcare advocate and representatives of the insurance companies came to us and said, look, the federal government has put such great credits, premium credits. This was part of the Build Back Better COVID whole response, that we think for this year, you can separate those markets. The individuals will be protected, and the small group was going to save a lot of money. And we did that, and they did. I think the number of $18 million has been put out for what the small group saved. But we said that unless the federal government extended those premium credits, that the markets got remerged as of June 29th of this year. The extension of those credits was in the Build Back Better bill. They didn't make it. The word is everybody likes these, people like these, talk that Congress is going to extend them for 5 years, but we don't know when Congress is going to extend them. The urgings of all the advocate and the companies, your Committee on Finance asked that an extension to September 1st be put into the budget adjustment so that the feds have until September 1st. Well, as PAA made its way through, the feds came back and said, nope, we can't do it. That's not enough time. Early August is the latest you can extend this remerge, and we can handle it. So the Committee on Finance is now faced with basically 3 decisions. We can leave the 29th of June to stand, and if the federal government comes back with those tax credits, that's the best of all possible worlds. We can remerge the markets and the tax credits don't show up, don't get extended, and life goes on. Or we can keep it in June or extend it to August 1st, and whatever date we choose, a week or 2 weeks later, the federal government extends those tax credits, and that is the worst of all possible worlds. Thus, the very difficult decision that we had to make. And where we ended up, and this was after significant discussion and recommendation, we talked with DFR, we talked with the Healthcare Reform Director, we talked with people from the Green Mountain Care Board, and the recommendation was that we keep these markets unmerged for 1 more year, just to see what the feds will do. This will have some cost for the individual market, and it will have savings for the small group. And In the end, that is what the amendment does. The amendment keeps those markets separate for one more year in order to let the federal government decide what they're going to do. If they don't do something this year, then we'll probably merge, but we will have a clearer playing field. And I believe the vote in committee, which I don't have in front of me, was 7-0-0. It may have been 6-0-1. One down. Okay, it was 6-1-0. Thank you, Senator. And we ask that this body concur.
The question is, shall the Senate propose the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Are you ready for the question? All those, Senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I think the chair did a good job walking through the dentistry parallel. It was difficult, but the calendar seems to have a mistake. So just to clarify, having conferred with a few other committee members, our vote on the amendment was 4-3 in support. After that, the vote to approve, I believe, is reflected as 6-1. So just wanted to have the record reflect, I believe, our action in committee.
The Senator from Washington is recognized.
That is correct. It was the 4-3 vote on the amendment.
Are you ready for the question? Again, the question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
No.
Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance. The question now is, shall the bill be read for the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 489. We'll now continue down the calendar to H 727. I believe there is a significant number of handouts. Give a moment for them to be handed out and move slowly here. H 727, an act relating to the exploration, participation, and organization of union school districts and unified union school districts. It was read for the first time on March 23rd. It was referred to the Committee on Education, which reports that it's considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 4401 to 4504 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 727.
H 727, an act relating to the exploration, formation, and organization of union school districts and unified union school districts.
The Senator from Bennington, the chair of the committee, Senator Campion, is recognized for the report.
Thank you, Madam President. I apparently know how to clear a room. H 727 is indeed a long bill, but for simplicity, I will break it up into three chunks, and my partner in this process will be Senator Perchlik. Madam President, may I speak to the underlying bill and the amendment?
You may.
So, Madam President, the first chunk that I'll walk senators through represents really many years of work of the Agency of Education to rewrite Chapter 11. This is the chapter which deals with the formation of union school districts. The version before you now is a much more user-friendly guide to creating union school districts and establishing governance. The goal of the rewrite is for Vermonters to be able to find information they need on the formation of union school districts more easily and in greater detail. It also will help people to fill a board vacancy on a newly established board, can also be found in this new written chapter of this new written version of Chapter 11. Madam President, most of this very long bill truly is a rewrite of current law. It's rewritten for clarity and additional detail. Much of what is in here is also repetitive. As I'll point out along the way, the language for a unified school district, a UUSD, is the same for forming an organization of a union high school and union elementary school. So that'll be the first chunk. The second chunk, which Senator Perchlik will walk you through, that part of the bill addresses more specific withdrawal actions. And then finally, I'll return to the final sections, which put a temporary moratorium on school closures and addresses employment transition for new school districts. So walking you through the bill, Section 1 simply redesignates 16 VSA, Chapter 11, into Chapter 9. It does not belong in Chapter 11. Section 2 repeals 16 VSA, Chapter 11 on passage. Section 3, Madam President, most of this is current law, and again, rewritten for clarity with additional detail, but I want to highlight a couple of key sections. Subsection 707 provides information and sets the budget for a study committee. Just backing up, I missed section 706, which actually, this is how a study committee is formed and how the vote on a study committee budget proceeds. Moving to section 708, this outlines what the study committee, what the study should report once it's complete. Section 709 outlines what to do with the study report. Section 710 outlines votes to form a new union school district. Again, I just want to reemphasize that much of this is rewritten law for greater clarity and additional detail. Section 711 outlines the election of initial school board members and how they should be elected according to the Articles of Agreement that are once created. Section 712, this is the warning language used to establish a new union school district and elect board members to it. Section 713 and 714, this deals with the certification of votes and recognition of new board districts. Section 715 is organizational language. This has to deal with the organizational meeting of a new union school district. 716, this section steps in to make a new union school district operational. So this is all of the transitional language that individuals would need to make that new union school district operational. Section 721 addresses joining an existing union school district, and 722 addresses amendments to Articles of Agreement. This section establishes when voters can amend Articles of Agreement, when board members can amend Articles of Agreement, as well as the voting process. Section 723, Madam President, allows districts without Australian ballot voting to vote. Section 24, Madam President, this has to do with the withdrawal form or the dissolution of a unified union school district. And this really formalizes the withdrawal process. This section is lengthy, but in short, what it really does is it requires greater transparency and really provides more information to voters so that they know what they're voting on prior to taking a withdrawal vote. Moving now to section 725. This is the same language that I have already covered, but in this case, it's for high school and elementary school union districts. So as I said in my initial comments, some of this will be repetitive. And in this case, this is the same language for high school and elementary union districts. Madam President, sections 729, 730, and 731, these are powers and duties of the school board and how to handle board vacancies. Moving now to section 731, this addresses the vacancy, if there's a vacancy on a unified union school district board. Section 732 addresses the creation of a new budget and borrowing power for the new UUSD. Sections 735 and 736, these address elections and powers of officers such as those officers being moderator, clerk, and treasurer of the new district. Section 737 to 742, these sections govern warnings of votings and how those, these sections governs warnings and votings of those warnings, as well as counting ballots. Skipping now, Madam President, to sections, subchapter 4, sections 745 to 760. All of what we have discussed just prior, again, this is all now repetitive. This is for same language, but for Union elementary schools and Union high school districts. Madam President, I seem to have gone quicker than I thought I would have, and I apologize if any of that got lost. But at this point, I will turn to the senator from Washington, Senator Perschlick, to take senators through a little bit more complicated issues as it relates to withdrawals.
Senator from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll go through the amendment. These are sections 4 through 8. Start on page 4484 if you want to follow along. Sections 4 through 7 are 4 specific sections that deal with 4 specific towns that are going through the withdrawal process, or have at least started the withdrawal process before this bill will become law if it is passed. These 4 towns were affected by Act 46. They started the withdrawal process, but there are different stages. So each section deals with a different town because of their specific circumstances of where they are in the withdrawal process. These are towns that wanted to withdraw from the unified school districts unions that are part of it today, except for Ripton, which is not part of that, is more fully withdrawn. So, and I will give abbreviations of these sections. A lot of the language is repetitive. They are specifically written, as I said, for these specific towns. All the towns are in Addison County, and we've heard from representatives from these towns. We've heard from elected school board members, state reps, state senators on these specific town issues. And they won't apply to any other towns, and they're going to be repealed as soon as, in 2024, as soon as these processes are finished. So I'm going to be brief on these because they're very specific, and I'm thinking only the people that are involved in those towns really want to know the details, and those people do know the details. So Section 4, to be specific, deals with the town of Ripton. So the towns aren't listed in the amendment, but I'm just going to tell you what towns they are because it makes it a lot easier to keep them straight. Section 4 deals with Ripton, who has voted to withdraw. The towns have voted to withdraw, and the State Board of Education has approved their withdrawal. But they have postponed their time of becoming a fully operational district until next year. Under Act 46, there was not really clear language about the withdrawal process. It wasn't, even though there's a lot of controversy about what we call the forced mergers, or some of us did, there wasn't a lot of discussion about how the withdrawal should happen. And the process was pretty scant. So the sections that Senator from Bennington went through really lay out a whole new process for schools to withdraw from their districts if they want to. We didn't want to put these 4 towns through that full process because, as we said, they had already started at least. We didn't want to pull the rug out from under them and say, no, you have to go all the way back to start and start all over. So, as I said, these 4 sections deal with these 4 towns separately. But basically, the process for the 4 towns is very similar. The town has to write a report, basically a status report, where they are in the withdrawal process, how they're going to meet the education qualification standards, how they're going to get their supervisory union services, If you remember, things like special education are dealt with by the supervisory union. So a small school that's withdrawing from their current supervisory union has to find a way to get things like special education. So they have to issue this report. The State Board of Education will review it. We'll decide whether it's deemed likely to succeed, basically, or unlikely to be prepared to operate a separate school. And then either the town votes to proceed anyway, or not, depending on the different situations here. So as I said, Section 4 lays out this process for Ripton. They will issue this report. The State Board of Education will decide whether they believe that they are prepared. But different than under the new existing process, that the State Board of Education's decision would be final. So if they say you're not ready, you can't go forward, then Ripon would have to be assumed back into the supervisory union that they're now fully with. Section 5 deals with the town of Stowe, which is similar in that they voted to leave the unified union. The other towns in the union have voted to accept that. And the difference is with Stowe, they used to be part of this supervisory union. They were part of a forced merger. They're just basically asking to go back to the way they were before Act 46 forced them to be a merger. But it requires them to write a report that the State Board of Education would review and put them on the process to kind of getting back to where they were before. Section 6 is for the town of Lincoln. The town of Ripon and Stowe have gone further along and have elected representatives that are going through this process. The next two sections, 6 and 7, deal with Lincoln and Starksboro, and they do not have school boards yet because they haven't fully gone through the process. So these sections deal with their specific issues without having elected school boards. Lincoln has voted to leave the district, and the towns have, but in Starksboro, they have just worn their vote. So the Starksboro is, I think, voting next week whether to withdraw from their district, and then after that, the towns would have to vote, and if both of those votes are successful, then the self-appointed committee that's part of the withdrawal process would issue a similar thing that I went through. They issue a report to the State Board of Education. The State Board of Education would decide whether they think their preparedness is likely or unlikely and kind of proceed from there. So that goes through those 4 sections for those 4 Addison County towns. The other section that I will go over is Section 8. Then I will yield back to the Senator from Bennington. Section 8 is a temporary moratorium on Union School District closures. And the reason we put this in there, a lot of the reasons that towns are asked to withdraw from their school unions is because they're afraid of their small elementary schools being closed in their towns. And they really often start this process. Sometimes some people feel without a lot of planning on how they're going to run a separate school district because they just want to try to protect their small towns. So as we're going through some study and the reporting and see how these other towns go through the process, we're putting a moratorium on closures of school buildings. And we're defining what is closing of school building, that this means that district ceases to use the building to provide direct education for a majority of the grades. So they could move some grades, they could change the way the building is used, but as long as the majority of the grades are still in that building as they were in 2022, then it's not a closing. And then this section will be repealed in 2024, so it's a 2-year moratorium on closures, and that we hope kind of puts a time for people to learn what we have learned through the passage of this bill. The towns that are going through the mergers go through them, and with the next section you'll hear about is as a report on school closures. So with that, Madam President, I'll yield back to the Senator from Bennington. Thank you.
The Senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. So Section 9, as the Senator from Washington mentioned, and Section 10 both really allow us to monitor school closures and withdrawals. So Section 9, this section requires the Agency of Education to issue a report the education committees on USD school building closures on or before September 1, 2023. And then section 10, this section requires the Agency of Education to issue an annual report to the education committees on withdrawal action during the preceding year and any recommendations for legislative action. Section 11, this section adds a new statute to Chapter 53 in Title 16, which addresses teacher contracts, compensation, and sick leave. This new statute establishes how employment contracts are handled when a new school district is created after a withdrawal from union school districts. We heard from the NEA and others that some of these situations could indeed cause uncertainty with our teachers, and this hopefully will clarify those processes. Section 12. This section makes clear that Section 11 applies to any school district with an operational date of July 1, 2023 or later, or if the State Board of Education created this district as a result of a withdrawal action initiated pursuant withdrawal process in effect on January 1, 2022. The effective dates are Section 13, and this act takes effect on passage. Madam President, we heard from a number of witnesses on this. I want to recognize certainly Senator Westman, who currently represents Stowe, and Senator Perchlik and his colleagues in Washington County, who soon will be representing Stowe. Senator Hardy also was helpful with regard to Addison County, and we are working on an amendment with Senator Hardy that you'll likely see before third reading. Elizabeth St. James, our staff attorney, I'm sure she'll be happy to see this disappear, but she was incredibly helpful all the way through the process. Much of this rewrite was done by Donna Russo Savage. Many of us know Donna through our years, her years in Ledge Council. We heard from Jeannie Albert, Lincoln resident, Jim Brockhausen from Stowe, Sue Siglowski, Vermont School Boards Association, Cheryl Charles, Westminster School Board, Representative Peter Conlin, Laureen Cox from Ripton, Millard Cox from Ripton, Jeff Fannin, Vermont NEA, Jeff Francis, Vermont Superintendents Association, Margaret McLean, Peacham resident, Tim Loiters Dumont, Montpelier resident, Jay Nichols, Principals Association, Oliver Olson, State Board of Education Chair, Herb Olson, Starksboro Save Our School Committee. Madam President, the vote in committee was 6-0-0, and we hope the Senate will support our work. Thank you.
Question is, shall the Senate propose the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education? Are you ready for the question? The Senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. As Senator Bennington said, there will be an amendment tomorrow, so I won't speak to that now, but I did just want to clarify a couple things from the report from the Senator from Washington. Stowe is not in Addison County. And hopefully the Senator from Washington knows that. And also, just to clarify, the three towns that are in Addison County that would be addressed by this bill, Ripon, Starksboro, and Lincoln, were not forced merged under Act 46. They voted and approved the merger under Act 46. And that is an important point that I would like everyone to know. And I'll talk more about the amendment tomorrow. Thank you, Madam President.
Are you ready for the question?
Madam Speaker.
The Senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you. To thank the committee, the Education Committee, for their work. I've been talking to the chair about Addison County towns with very particular situations for months, and I know that he and the committee is very patiently taking a great deal of testimony and worked very hard to maintain the integrity of the overall bill while also accommodating the special situations in the towns that are hard to represent. So I'm happy to support the bill and thank the committee for the diligence.
Just a friendly reminder that the speaker is in the other body. Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education. The question now is, shall the bill be read for the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 17 and 27. There has been a request to pass over S 100. We will now move to the senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I request a brief recess to confer with the Lieutenant Governor and the Senate Secretary.
The Senate will stand in recess until the fall of the gavel. The Senate will please come to order. We are returning from a brief recess and having conferred with the pro tem, we will now move to S 286, an act relating to amending various public pension and other post-employment benefits. On May 2nd, 2022, the Honorable Philip B. Scott.
Sorry, we need a rule suspension to take it up because it's on notice.
I do believe one step needs to be taken before we can take it up, which is a motion for a rule suspension. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the rule be suspended and that we take up the veto override on the pension bill. Thank you, Madam President.
The senator from Wyndham has moved that the rules be suspended and S 286 be taken up for immediate consideration. This is an act relating to amending various public pension and other post-employment benefits. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've suspended the rules and will now take up S 286. On May 2nd, 2022, the Honorable Philip B. Scott, Governor, vetoed S 286. An act relating to amending various public pension and other post-employment benefits, and returned it to the Senate and submitted a message explaining his objections to the bill. A copy of the veto message is contained in today's calendar on page 4549, and a copy of the bill as passed by the Senate and the House is on page 4550 of today's calendar. The authority of the governor to veto a bill passed by both houses of the General Assembly is found in Section 11 of Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the State of Vermont. By reason of the wording of Section 11 of Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the State of Vermont, the Senate is obligated to reconsider this bill. The question that you will be voting on is as follows. Shall the bill pass notwithstanding the governor's refusal to approve the bill? A yea vote is a vote to override the governor's veto. A nay vote is a vote to sustain the governor's veto. As required by the Constitution, the vote will be by roll call. 2/3 of the members who are present must pass the bill over the objections of the governor. Otherwise, the veto of the governor will be sustained. In the event that 2/3 of those present do not vote to pass the bill, it will then be transmitted to the House together with the governor's objection for consideration by that body. In the event that the governor's veto is sustained by the Senate, then the House will not have to consider it. The question before the Senate is debatable. Upon conclusion of the debate, the secretary shall call the roll. The question is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the governor's refusal to approve the bill? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a very brief statement. Not to prolong this discussion, but I think there are a couple of things that are important to point out. For 8 months, the task force worked with pension experts, actuaries, and anyone who chose to weigh in. The decision was not simply, as stated in the veto letter, between a handful of union and legislative representatives. Each of these 12 people, including a representative of the administration, did extensive work and did not take this issue lightly. There was, in addition to the meetings, people worked off the meetings and consulted with anybody they could. The veto letter states it does not include enough structural change to solve the enormous unfunded liability problems. I disagree, and so do the experts we worked with. The actuaries were very clear and went through at least 3 iterations before coming to a solution that addressed the problem. I am not sure which actuaries the governor consulted. The letter also states, I offered balanced solutions which were disregarded. The only suggestion or solution I know of that was a requirement to allow new hires the choice between a defined benefit and a defined contribution plan. This is not a balanced solution. It was an issue the task force addressed, but decided to leave to the oversight committee. It is complicated and worthy of more investigation than a simple amendment. And just to be clear, never during the 8 months of the task force did anyone from the administration suggest this as a solution, even though administration representatives testified to us. We should trust the actuaries for their analysis and honor the hard work of the dedicated task force members. Speaking for both the task force and Senate Government Operations, we ask for your support in overriding this veto. Thank you.
Senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I would also just like to talk about the interrelationship with this bill and the budget. First of all, the negotiated increased contributions have been assumed in the budget that we have passed. Those increased contributions, when they mature, would be 15 million in that vicinity for state employees and over 10 for teachers. So the budget assumes those contributions and in fact uses them in terms of not only the calculation of ADAC, but also because the other changes include COLA changes and so forth that do impact positively the ADAC, but also those revenues, those higher contributions are helping us to start pre-funding our health care benefit when current employees retire. And it's because of our moving forward to pre-fund health care benefits that removes almost $2 billion of unfunded liability from the books of the state. The other appropriation in the bill that is the subject of this vote includes an additional $50 million to go toward payment of the underfunding. By virtue of doing that, it reduces the payment in 2 years that we have for the unfunded amortized liability payment. And that would be about 19.5 million would be the result of paying that 50 million plus the 150 that we are moving out of reserve for a total of 200 million. So I just want to say that our vote today is not only related to what is in this bill, which is really reflective, clean with what was negotiated, but also how you have to crosswalk it with the budget itself. So I just wanted to remind people that like so many things, there are interconnections, and there are certainly very significant budgetary connections as it relates to what this bill does. And we haven't finished the budget, of course, but they do intersect very significantly. And so with that, I will just sit down because there's so much to remember, but I just thought it would be helpful for people to understand how the budget and what we're going to be voting on here impact each other. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the governor's refusal to approve the bill? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Franklin is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I voted in favor of the pension bill when it came through, not because I was happy about it, not because I thought it was the greatest bill. I thought it perhaps might have been close to the best bill we could have done given the circumstances and the timing. And that still isn't great. I've been dealing with this pension issue for over 15 years in one capacity or another. It was unsustainable when I first dealt with it in 2005. And even after this bill is passed, I believe ultimately it is unsustainable. And for those younger members of this chamber, put on your calendar right now, because you're going to be back here in 5 to 7 years dealing with the pension crisis and trying to fix this. But it's now, as far as this bill is concerned, it's not just the 11th hour, it is 11:55 p.m. And I think we have to move on as much as we don't like to. Defined contribution is complicated. Defined contribution is where the rest of the world in the pension area has gone for obvious reasons. But at this point, I think we need to move on. Thank you, Madam President.
Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the bill pass notwithstanding the governor's refusal to approve the bill? The secretary is kindly asked to call the roll.
Senator Ballant.
Yes.
Senator Baruch.
Yes.
Senator Benning.
Yes.
Senator Bray.
Yes.
Senator Brock.
Yes.
Senator Campion.
Yes.
Senator Chittenden.
Yes.
Senator Clarkson.
Yes.
Senator Collimore.
Yes.
Senator Cummings.
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yes.
Senator Hooker.
Yes.
Senator Ingalls.
Yes.
Senator Kitchell.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator McDonald.
Yes.
Senator Mazza.
Yes.
Senator McCormick.
Yes.
Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Parent.
Yes.
Senator Pearson.
Yes.
Senator Perschlick.
Yes.
Senator Polina.
Yes.
Senator Ron Hinsdale.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes.
Senator Sirotkin.
Yes.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Terenzini.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yeah.
Senator White.
Yes.
Please listen to the results of your vote. The yeas 30, the nays 0. 2/3 of members present having vetoed in favor of passage of the bill. The governor's veto has been overridden. We will now return to the calendar for today. I believe we were going to take up S-127. We have an the calendar S-127, an act relating to the procedures and review of community supervision, furlough, revocation, or interruption appeals. The House has proposed to the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on pages 4508, 4512 of today's calendar. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-127? The senator from Bennington, the chair of the Committee on Judiciary, Senator Sears, is recognized for the report.
Thank you, Madam President. As a reminder, S-27 deals with conditions and terms of community supervision while somebody's on furlough. It makes certain amendments to Rule 74 of the Rules of Civil Procedure. The Senate passed version is basically mainly intact in this version of the bill from the other body. We had gone to 180 days where the furlough interrupts would require quick hearings. The House decided to go back to 90 days following the testimony that once we had changed the venue for all of these cases to go to Washington County, it will free up time so that the 90 days is applicable. The second change that the House made is in absconding and clearly defining what absconding means. And who knew that we have a different definition for absconding under the Department of Corrections than might be expected. So that is in section C1 on page, yesterday's calendar is 4315, if folks want to follow. The second amendment is a new section 2, which is the Department of Corrections Monitoring Commission, and the House made a few changes to that commission based on the Commissioner of Corrections concerns. It had been started by Commissioner Baker before he left, and so they make a few changes to that. And your Committee on Judiciary reviewed the changes and have voted unanimously to concur with the House proposed amendment, or the Senate do the same.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-127? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-127. We now have on the calendar S-195, an act relating to the certification of mental health peer support specialists. The House has proposed to the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on pages 4512 to 4513 of the calendar. And the underlying question is, shall the House concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-195? The senator from Chittenden, the chair of the Committee on Health and Welfare, is recognized for the report.
Thank you, Madam President. S-195, as you can see, relates to establishing a certification for mental health peer support specialists in the state. As the bill left the Senate, it did have work. We asked for work to go on to bring back a certification program to us. The bill, as it's come back from the House, asked for a study and to bring back recommendations for the certification program. We all know how important it is right now to offer support for folks who have mental health issues and illness. This bill will take a long step forward to providing support services at the community level. The Committee on Health and Welfare reviewed the proposal from the House, and we would like to have the bill recommitted to our Committee on Senate Health and Welfare. And the reason is that after the bill left Senate Health and Welfare, a lot of work started to happen within the Office of Professional Regulation, Department of Mental Health, and interested parties to actually put together this certification. And it is our thinking that this, the language that was returned to us from the House would actually slow down the process that's ongoing. If there are any needs for legislative action related to this, we will see that during the next session. But at this time, the Office of Professional Regulation, Department of Mental Health can go forward with their work and hopefully establish a peer support certification. So we ask that we vote to return S-195 to the committee. Thank you very much.
The senator from Chittenden has moved that S-195 be recommitted to the Committee on Health and Welfare. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've recommitted S-195 to the Committee on Health and Welfare. We'll now move to S-220. We have on the calendar today S-220, an act relating to state paid deputy sheriffs. The House has proposed the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on pages 4513 to 4516 of today's calendar. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-220? And the senator from Rutland, Senator Collmore, is recognized for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to review, this body passed S-220 earlier this session, which adds state paid deputy sheriffs to the definition of state employees for the purposes of the State Employees Labor Relations Act. The other body's changes that came back, we considered to be technical and clarifying in nature. There's one change that might be labeled as substantive, but for the most part, they're just clarifying. You can follow along on page 4513. The first change just moves language to improve the clarity of that certain subdivision, subdivision 5. The second change clarifies that granting collective bargaining rights under SELRA to the transport deputies does not affect the deputation authority of county sheriffs. The third change in section 2 does add a new section which allows the Department of State attorneys and sheriffs to designate one transport deputy as a confidential employee who will not be part of the union. Section 3 is language requested by the Department of Human Resources to clarify that the Labor Board would oversee the selection of a union to represent the bargaining unit. Section 4, the language here was deleted by the House as unnecessary because including the transport deputies in SELRA already grants them the right to bargain under that law. And the final change in section 5, the House version makes language at the end of the subdivision consistent with the language at the beginning of the subdivision. So the Senate Government Operations Committee voted unanimously to concur with the changes proposed by the other body and asked the full Senate to concur as well.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposed amendment on S-220? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've proposed to the House, you concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-220. We have on the calendar today S-287, an act relating to improving student equity by adjusting the school funding formula and providing education, quality, and funding oversight. The House has proposed the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on pages 4516 to 4541 of today's calendar. And again, the underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on 287? The senator from Addison is recognized.
Madam Chair, or President, I would ask that we just pass over this so that the Senate Finance Committee can discuss it this afternoon.
We will now pass over S-287.
Thank you.
And move on to H-700 and 36. Want to confirm senators joining us online did not wish to be recognized. We have on the calendar today H736, an act relating to the transportation program and miscellaneous changes to laws related to transportation. The House has proposed an amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment as set forth on pages 4541 to 4547 of today's calendar. The automatic question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment? The senator from Washington, Senator Perchlik, is recognized for the report.
Can I ask for just a really quick recess, Madam President?
The Senate will stand in recess until the fall of the gavel. The Senate will please come to order. We're returning after a brief consideration of H736. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment? And the senator from Washington, Senator Perchlik, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. This time we ask that we pass over H736 pending some informal discussion.
We will do so and move on to third readings. We have on the calendar for third reading H96, an act relating to creating the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Third reading was ordered on May 3rd. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H96.
H96, an act relating to creating the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've passed H96. We have on the calendar for third reading H279, an act relating to miscellaneous changes affecting the duties of the Department of Vermont Health Access. Third reading was ordered on May 3rd. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H279.
H279, an act relating to miscellaneous changes affecting the duties of the Department of Vermont Health Access.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H279 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading H410, an act relating to the use and oversight of artificial intelligence in state government. Third reading was ordered on May 3rd. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H410.
H410, an act relating to the use and oversight of artificial intelligence in state government.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H410 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading H500, an act relating to prohibiting the sale of mercury lamps in the state. Third reading was ordered on May 3rd. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H500.
H500, an act relating to prohibiting the sale of mercury lamps in the state.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H 500 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading H 546, an act relating to racial justice. Third reading was ordered on May 3rd. Are there any amendments before third reading? The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. It's in the second section. I almost missed the calendar today, so it's on page 4548. It is, as you remember, this bill was about collecting racial data on in the criminal justice system, and it compels local law enforcement agencies to actually provide the data. And there was some question about what the enforcement policy would be. And what this is an exact replica of the current policy around the local law enforcement and whether they comply with state policies that are promoted. And if they do not comply with state policies, they will not be eligible to use the resources of the academy. That means they can't send their special officers for training. They can't, they won't have any use of the academy. They can't apply for grants. So this is just putting this enforcement in the section that compels them to provide the information, the data that is being collected. And I will say that in the past, there was an issue around data collection because many law enforcement are using two different systems, and there are many differences in reporting. Now they're all using the same system, the Valcor system, and it's easier to use. And what we heard was that out of the 73 local agencies that the Department of Public Safety is working with, 71 are complying already. So this really isn't onerous. It's just here to provide some enforcement. And the committee looked at this, Judiciary Committee approved this amendment 500. We hope for your support.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the senator from Windham and the senator from Bennington? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. And you've proposed to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the senator from Windham and the senator from Bennington. Are there any additional amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H 546.
H 546, an act relating to racial justice statistics.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence with the proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And you've passed H 546 with proposal of amendment. We have on the calendar for third reading H 551, an act relating to prohibiting racially and religiously restrictive covenants and deeds. Third reading was ordered on May 3rd. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H 551.
H 551, an act relating to prohibiting racially and religiously restrictive covenants in deeds.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you passed H 551. We now have on the calendar for third reading H 728, an act relating to opioid overdose response services. Third reading was also ordered on May 3rd. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please, the senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I do not have an amendment, but there was a question from the senator from Essex Orleans yesterday about the syringes used in needle exchange programs and whether or not they were marked with some kind of identifying stamp or something so that it would be known by law enforcement or others whether or not the syringes came from a certified program. I did some research to try to answer that question. To my knowledge, the syringes themselves are not marked with anything, but the way that the program works, and there are pages and pages of regulations and guidelines related to the program. So any organization that is participating in the program must follow the guidelines, and any individual who is participating in a needle exchange program must register confidentially with that program to be able to get needles, syringes, and other harm reduction materials from the program. So it is based on the individual's participation, not on the actual stuff itself. So if a person were to be found with a syringe, if they were registered with the program, then they could not be adjudicated based on having a syringe with them from because they were a member of a participant in the needle exchange program. If a syringe was just found on the ground, it would not necessarily be known where it was from, and it would have to follow the same procedures of evidence and investigation that anything else would, if it were linked to some kind of criminal activity. So hopefully that answers the question from the senator. Thank you, Madam President.
Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H 720. The senator from Essex Orleans is recognized.
I don't have an amendment, but could I speak on the floor, Madam President?
One, just point of clarification, I should have mentioned this before the senator from Addison spoke. The question hasn't been called yet. The question is, are there any amendments? So the appropriate moment, just for all of us moving forward, is after the question has been called. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading.
S 728, an act relating to opioid overdose response services.
The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? And the senator from Essex Orleans is recognized.
Madam President, I was struck yesterday about the senator from Chittenden's comments comparing an injection site to a bar. I just really don't see the parallel to them. Injection site where you don't know anything about what's being injected. You don't know where it's come from. You don't know what the doses are. You don't know what harm it could be. You don't know whether that person is going to live or die. But you do know that there's Narcan there available in case that person did die, and then you wanted to try to bring that person back to life. And comparison to a bar where you know where the products come from, you know what the levels of intoxicants are, you know even by their name, you even probably have a favorite brand. It's being served by a professional who's there to recognize that you might be overserved and then shut off and then hopefully offered a ride home. And I do realize that there are deaths associated with alcohol. But I can tell you, I know a lot of people who have drank better than for 40 years, and I don't know what their health is, but I don't know very many addicts who have been abusing opioids for 40 years and then have come out fine. I've also was struck in a nice way of the senator's comments about his third grader. And I can imagine that the senator and his third grader probably never has had much discussion about how safe it is to go to these injection sites and to go there, and that you could probably feel good about it, that that would be safe and it would be all good to go there because there are protections there for you. I'm just bothered that as a state and as we are elected in the Senate, we are here to uphold the laws that we make. And we're no better or no worse than anybody, but we're here to uphold the laws that we make, and that opioids they're an illegal substance. They're not legal anywhere in the world. We put people in jail for them, but yet we make laws to try to make them legal and in some form or fashion. And then we spend millions of dollars on the other end of it to try to get people to be healed from it. I just don't know how we could possibly do that. And again, talking and thinking fondly of the senator and his third grader about, discussions about where and when it's appropriate and to be and all of that. And I don't think that senator would ever have that discussion that it's okay to use an illegal drug. But by us supporting...
We've had a conversation in this body already about impugning.
Yep.
And
I apologize, Madam President. I will finish. But I do believe that for us to support this bill does send a message for all of anybody who is of any age that that maybe that we could support in some way legalization or legal use of these harmful drugs. And I think that supporting this bill does do that. It sends a message that, yes, it is illegal, but we're going to find a way to make sure that that you can use these drugs and everything will be okay. But thank you, Madam President.
Question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Once you get referenced 6 times on the floor, there should be an informal rule that you're allowed to stand. No, I appreciate the remarks of my colleague from Essex Orleans. This bill doesn't legalize anything. This bill studies, among other things, one potential path for harm reduction: save lives. Not asking to legalize, not even contemplating legalizing, not even contemplating decriminalizing, but rather, among many things the bill does, just asks questions of, would have the state collect data to better understand whether or not this is an appropriate solution to reduce opioid overdoses, to have fewer Vermonters die. That's what this is asking us to do. I'm impatient. I think we should take that step. But that's not what this bill does. So I just want to be clear about that. I think it is worth noting that in overdose prevention sites, one of the services that can be offered are test kits so that users can understand if there's fentanyl, which can be instantly deadly. That's an approach that is not judging somebody for their addiction, but just helping maybe give a shot somebody who, has issues with substance abuse, but is also interested in living. And I think, to me, when I think about this, and I understand it's controversial and we're a ways off from taking that step, but you are seeing communities take this step. And the people that would take advantage of these kinds of sites are interested in changing the dynamic that has led to their abuse, to their drug use. That's positive, and we ought to be there to support it. But again, that's not what this bill is doing. And I just have to say, I don't talk to my third grader about heroin and injecting hard drugs, but my third grader walked the streets of New York City recently. And that was something that prompted discussions, because for the first time in my memory, in that center, I recall walking by somebody who openly had a needle on the sidewalk. And I was struck, and actually she didn't notice. So that was helpful for me at the time, Madam President, because I didn't have a good answer. Think about that though. If you are in a state where your addiction is so strong that you're not seeking a doorway. You're not seeking a bush to hide behind, but just on the sidewalk. This is a drug that, in particular opioids, the addiction is so strong, it is deadly consequences. I'm impatient that all we're doing here is asking for more data and wondering if we should take a step that is proven to reduce deaths. And anyway, Senate's heard enough from me on this, President. Thank you.
The senator from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I remember when we didn't allow methadone clinics in the state of Vermont because it was exchanging one addiction for another. And it wasn't until a young woman, I believe, in the Northeast Kingdom, I believe she was the mother of two, got up every morning, drove to North Adams, Mass. To get her methadone, and then came back and went to work all day. And one morning, she didn't make it. There was an automobile accident and she died. And that is what brought Vermont around to allowing methadone clinics. I was one of the ones that supported injection sites when we took up this issue 5 or 6 years ago. And it was the state's attorney from Chittenden County who told us her story. She said when she was a deputy, you got all the really good things, like you had to go out when there was a death in the middle of the night and, you know, be the state's attorney. And she got called out one night and went to a home. And there was a young woman who had overdosed. She was a college student. She was a soccer star. And this was Sarah George said that really hit home. She had been a soccer star, a college student. This was a nice middle-class young woman, but she had been injured and her doctor had prescribed a perfectly legal medication for the pain of that injury. It wasn't very many years ago. I can remember, after surgery being given large bottles. I remember telling the doctor I could send my grandchildren to college on the street value of the pills in that bottle. An awful lot of people were addicted through viable medical prescriptions, legal, but those were running over $100 a pill, and that was some years ago. And eventually a lot of them switched to heroin. This addiction crisis that we have is not about a bunch of guys in a back alley. It's about us. It's about our children. It's about our grandchildren. People who really through no fault of their own became addicted. And now we're trying to figure out how do we keep them alive long enough to help them overcome that addiction. And I just want to make sure that we remember, we're just now getting money. We just did a committee to figure out how to spend the money from the opioid crisis. That has fueled an awful lot of this. And I think we need to focus on who we're really talking about.
The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
No.
No.
Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've passed H 728 in concurrence. Finally, for today, we have JRH 18, a joint resolution relating to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Third reading was ordered on May 3rd. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of JRH.
JRH 18, joint resolution relating to the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
The question is, shall the resolution pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed JRH 18 in concurrence. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, actually, I'd like to go back up to S210. We had passed over it earlier, but my understanding that the reporter is now ready.
Now return to the top of the calendar for today. S210, an act relating to rental, housing, health, and safety and affordable housing. The House has proposed to the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on pages 4383 to 4396 of today's calendar. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S210? And I believe the senator from Chittenden, Senator Sirotkin, is recognized for the report. And amendment that is being circulated.
Thank you, Madam President. If the Senate will recall, S210 is a successor to S79. It was vetoed, I believe, last year by the governor. It deals primarily with moving home health inspections to the Department of Fire Safety from town health officers, and also establishes and funds the VHIP program with $20 million. The House made 3 suggested changes to S210, and 2 of them we agree with. 1 of them we think has unintended consequences, and that is the reason for this proposed amendment before you. In S210, the Senate had narrowed the number of homes that were subject to the registry per request, not per request, but inconsistent with some of the suggestions from the governor in his veto message. One of which was to eliminate from the registry triplexes where the owner occupied 1 unit. The House expanded that to quadplexes, and we agree with that expansion of the exceptions. The second thing they did in our bill and in S79 originally, we had $1 million to set up a revolving loan fund for new homeowners to renovate their homes. We have to help people with their purchase costs, the closing costs. Some of the homes they buy are in bad condition and they need some renovation. So similar to the VHIP program, which provides landlords with monies to renovate dilapidated structures, we had a $1 million program for private homeowners. That program was funded in the budget, but it was never enacted into law by virtue of the veto, so that money was still in the 22 budget unspent. The House has suggested moving that money, the program never got started, and moving it in another bill over to the first-time home buyer program for first-generation home buyers, and we agree with that. One area where there was some confusion deals with something that was very important to our committee, was to try and build upon the success that we've had in the state of Vermont, but most predictable, predominantly, there's a great attention paid to accessory dwelling units and how to take oversized houses or overhoused homes where, for instance, a senior citizen lives and it become an empty nest person, and allow them to convert their home to facilitate ADU expansions. We had done that and prohibited those from being short-term rentals once the subsidy was given to those folks. But what the House did is, I think in an attempt to actually even expand that further, they allowed homes to be converted that were not ADUs and following our ADU law, but to any home on an individual lot. So an example that was given to us, that under their language, someone can build 20 homes on a lot without having to go through the normal permitting. Maybe it was a good idea. It was not drafted properly, we thought, and we didn't have time to review it. So we went back to our language on that. And there was another thing that came over from the House, whereas in the VHIP program where a landlord is developing a dilapidated property, in exchange for the subsidy or the grant of up to, the House changed the grant from 30,000 to 50,000 based upon their experience. The landlord has to agree to rent to a homeless individual or somebody 80% below average median income. And we never thought that was appropriate, trying to develop ADUs where there's a primary house and you're renting to a smaller unit and you live next door to that person, that there shouldn't be that kind of restriction on who your tenants should be. So we went back to the original intent, which was this amount of rents you can charge for the next 5 years have to be no more than the fair market value as established by HUD. So those are the changes proposed in our amendment. The vote in committee was 4-1 to make these changes, and I hope the Senate will concur.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal amendment with a further proposal of amendment as proposed by the Senator from Chittenden? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
No.
Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've concurred with the House proposal of amendment with a further proposal of amendment as proposed by the Senator from Chittenden. The Senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I ask that the rules be suspended and that we message our actions on S-127, S-210, S-286, H-96, H-279, H-410, H-500, H-546, H-551, H-728, and JR H-18 to the House.
The Senator from Windham has moved that the rules be suspended and the following bills be messaged to the House with S-127, an act relating to procedures and review of community supervision furlough revocation or interruption appeals. S-210, an act relating to rental housing, health and safety and affordable housing. S-286, an act relating to amending various public pension and other post-employment benefits. H-96, an act relating to creating the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. H-279, an act relating to miscellaneous changes affecting the duties of the Department of Health Access. H-410, an act relating to the use and oversight of artificial intelligence in state government. H-500, an act relating to prohibiting the sale of mercury lamps in the state. H-546, an act relating to racial justice statistics. H-551, an act relating to prohibiting racially and religiously restrictive covenants in deeds. H-728, an act relating to the opioid overdose response services. And JRH-18, a joint resolution relating to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've suspended the rules and referred the following bills to the House forthwith. S-127, S-210, S-286, H-96, H-279, H-410, H-500, H-546, H-551, H-728, and JRH-8. Senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I ask that the rules be suspended and that we message our action on S-220, an act relating to state-paid deputy sheriffs, to the governor forthwith.
The Senator from Windham has moved that the rules be suspended and S-220, an act relating to state-paid deputy sheriffs, be messaged to the governor forthwith. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and you suspended the rules and messaged S-220 to the governor forthwith. Senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Pending announcements, I move that the Senate stand in adjournment until 12:45 today, Thursday, today, Wednesday, May 4th. By way of explanation, we are going to take a break to caucus on a bill that will be coming off the calendar, which is S11. The Democratic Caucus, my understanding, has access to room 9. And I know the Minority Caucus is much smaller, so I imagine Senator Brock can make an announcement as to where they can huddle up. And to explain that we're not recessing, the Senate Secretary reminded us by our rules, we are able to meet twice in a day. So 12:45, room 9 for the Democratic Caucus. And I think that's it for now. Thank you, Madam President.
The senator from Windham has moved the Senate stand in adjournment until 12:45 p.m. today, Wednesday, May 4th. Are there any announcements? The senator from Windham is recognized, and I'll move to the senator from Franklin.
Thank you, Madam President. I know that we have some time left, but we seem to be dropping like flies here. And so I would, as long as I'm still in the chamber, I would like to say a few words. 20 years have taught me a lot, and I will miss this more than I can say. But I want to share a few things that I've learned over the past. Some of them are really good, some of them all of you knew beforehand. Don't lean against the bathroom and against the counter in the downstairs bathroom. For those of you who don't use the downstairs women's bathroom, you probably don't understand that, but the rest of us do. When tearing paper during the floor session, wet the fold before you tear so it doesn't make noise. It's a little harder during COVID. The importance of decorum and Senate traditions. Cherish our fellow legislators. Remember the hard work, but remember the fun and good. Senator Mazza is Mazza, not Mazza. Treat everyone with respect. Try to be patient. Don't cross Secretary Bloomer or the Sergeant at Arms. Show appreciation for the staff. Have a copy of Mason's and refer to it often. Look at it, even if only to make the secretary nervous. Listen to and respect the ghosts swirling around in this chamber. Dance with the Capitol Police in the well of the House. Understand that people with different opinions also want the best for Vermont. Take the issues seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. And above all, love and respect the institution and all it represents. Thank you.
Are there any additional announcements? The senator from Franklin is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. And I would like to take this moment to thank the senator from Windham for that outstanding presentation of guidance for the future, and also for the hard work, friendship, and for long service, for which we are all grateful and very, very appreciative. The second thing that I would like to do is just simply announce that the Republican Caucus will meet at the fall of the gavel in the telephone booth on the
The senator from Caledonia is recognized.
May I inquire of the pro tem?
You may.
I'm just wondering, after caucus, is the plan to return here and take up the bill? I'm trying to schedule a committee of conference, and I have one scheduled at 1, and I'm just trying to.
I appreciate the question. We are going to try to move through S11 when we come back at 12:45.
All right, thank you very much.
Senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. The Senate Sexual Harassment Prevention Panel was supposed to meet in the chamber directly following the fall of the gavel. This was a curveball I didn't expect, so I think we're going to have to postpone that meeting, and I'll confer with the secretary to find another time. So thank you for your patience.
Senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Madam President, may I inquire of the minority leader?
Okay.
Madam President, there is no phone at that presentation. Curious as to whether or not the Republican caucus is actually meeting.
We are meeting, and it's the place where the phone booth used to be.
Thank you, Madam President.
Are there any additional announcements? I do have an announcement on behalf of the Committee on Committees. We have a committee of conference to announce on Senate Bill, or on House Bill H720, an act relating to the system of care for individuals with developmental disabilities. The three members of the Committee of Conference are as follows: Senator Hooker, Senator Hardy, and Senator Terenzini. Any additional announcements?
Does she want a message
Madam President, I see that the Senate Secretary is looking at me furtively, and I'm not certain of the announcement that he would like me to make.
If Senator from Wyndham wished to message the Committee of Conference back.
Thank you. He was, Madam President, the Senate Secretary's mouth. It's very difficult. So yes, indeed, I would like to message our actions on, I believe it's 720 to the House forthwith.
The senator from Wyndham has moved that that the Senate's actions on H720 be messaged to the House forthwith. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've messaged your actions on H720 to the House forthwith. The senator from Wyndham has moved that the Senate adjourn until 12:45 p.m. today, Wednesday, May 4th. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the Senate stands adjourned until 12:45, Wednesday, May 4th.